society. So if this world that you see around you, if the news that you read every day, the television, if it doesn't seem rational, it doesn't seem fair, then you need to get involved in doing something to change it. But in order to change it, we have to understand it. And this is, again, in my opinion, where the ideas of Marxism come in. After all, if Marxism is dead, then why do they continue to attack it? The fact is, why bother, The fact is, Marxism isn't only not dead, it's actually very much alive, and it's still a threat. Now, a threat to who, you might ask? Well, it's a threat to the handful of people who control the fates of billions of other humans. But for the vast majority of humanity, these are actually very exciting ideas, and they offer a way out of the impasse, of the dead end that we're in. So what do we propose as an alternative to capitalism? Well, we propose socialism. But what do we mean by socialism? Well, by socialism we mean the genuine nationalization, the expropriation of the top 500 banks and corporations to be run under democratic workers' control in the interests of the whole of society. It's really not that complicated. We believe that the working class majority should have democratic control over the means of production, distribution, and exchange in harmony with the environment. In other words, we need a rational plan of production that is geared towards meeting human needs, not private profits. We need an economy that is interested in producing, improving people's quality of life, not improving people's bottom line. But the problem, of course, is that you cannot plan what you don't control. And you can't control what you don't own. And this is why, in our opinion, the state should take over all of these big companies. Not the little companies, not the little mom and pop shops, but the really big ones, the ones that really determine who has work, who has a place to live, who eats, all those really important decisions which are taken by the big corporations, not by the government. But of course, this is where a lot of people get nervous, because they don't trust the government we live under, and they're therefore justifiably suspicious of anything having to do with further state control. And ironically enough, George Bush has presided over one of the biggest expansions of the state in history, even though Republicans were traditionally, small government and so on. So the real question then is, what kind of state do we need? In our opinion, then, we need a workers' state, a state that represents the vast majority of society, which is the working class in this country, as opposed to the kind of state that we live in today, which is a state that's designed to represent the interests of a tiny minority of people, the capitalist class. So the question is, who controls these resources? Like I said before, we think it should be democratically controlled by the majority of society. It's pretty straightforward. Now, a lot of people say that the Americans are too conservative for a socialist revolution to happen here. But things can change really, really fast. Just think of all the big events that have taken place over just the last few years. The collapse of Enron, September 11th, the 2000 and 2004 elections, Hurricane Katrina and its aftermath, the collapse of the entire financial services sector in the most powerful and rich country on earth. There's a whole generation that has grown up, doesn't remember the Soviet Union, doesn't remember the Cold War, doesn't even remember the Clinton years. People who were 10 years old when Bush was elected are now about to vote. All they've known their whole lives is war, terrorism, economic crisis. It's a different mentality. These things have affected people's consciousness, and I think we're just seeing the beginning of a change. And in fact, it is precisely because people are traditionally more conservative that there will be a revolutionary movement right here in this country, in the belly of the beast. And why is that? What do I mean by conservative? Well, people want stability. People want a steady job. They want decent benefits. They want quality health care and education. They want a safe place to live. They want to have time to spend with their families and with their loved ones. And this system cannot offer even these basics to people anymore. Even here, the richest country on earth. So we live in an epoch of sharp and sudden changes. It's a period where we'll see massive shifts in consciousness on the basis of events. Now, this is not normally the case. Normally, years and even decades can go by, and it seems as though nothing's happened, nothing changes. But these, right now, are not normal times. The fact is that nothing is static. Everything changes. Absolutely everything is in a constant state of movement and change. Just look at earthquakes and volcanoes, for example. Over a long period of time, Pressure gradually accumulates beneath the surface, which appears to be calm, but eventually that pressure builds and leads to a sudden and violent shifts in the Earth's crust. Colossal explosions of gas, of lava, and the formation of islands and mountains. It completely changes the whole face of the planet. The same applies throughout nature. It's been studied. I'm sure people have read about chaos theory or ubiquity theory, whatever. Chaos theory, weather patterns, the stock market. It's been proved that these things operate on a chaotic way, where you have small accumulations of change that then, burst all of a sudden. Sometimes they call it, the herd mentality on the stock market. Everything's going fine one day, and next thing you know, everyone's selling everything. I mean, that's a confirmation of this. And it's not just in nature, but it also applies to human consciousness and to human history and to human society. That's what a revolution is ultimately. It's those points in history where the crust of society shifts and you have that huge earthquake or you have that volcanic explosion. It doesn't happen every day, but it does happen. It has happened many, many times throughout history, and it's happened here in this country in the past. With the American Revolution, to get freedom from the British, and with the Civil War, which was another revolution in this country where the capitalist North went to war with the slave-holding South. So don't be surprised in the coming years when we are going through our own revolution right here in the United States. Now, a friend of mine likes to quote the Bible, even though he's not religious at all. But there's a quote in there that says, that I think is very well applicable to the situation here in the United States, and that is that, for the first shall be last and the last shall be first. So don't be surprised if a country that seems completely unrevolutionary is very quickly at the forefront of the situation. Because with a world economy comes world economic crisis. And with world economic crisis comes world revolution. That is the end result of globalization. Things are so interconnected now that events in one country inevitably have an effect on other countries. Ultimately, what we're talking about here is that the capitalists and their representatives in government are concerned about staving off a socialist revolution right here in the United States. There is already a revolutionary wave, as many of you know, taking place across Latin America, and revolutions do not respect borders, and that's a tremendous threat to the capitalist class of this country. There's growing fear, there's growing pessimism. You talk to people on the streets, people are worried. That's why the consumer spending has gone down so much. That's why consumer confidence has gone down so much. But there's also that anger that's starting to simmer beneath the surface. And there's already been symptoms of this exploding to the surface. For example, the mass mobilizations of immigrant workers over the last couple of years, or the growing mood of discontent among many rank-and-file trade unionists. Now, Karl Marx explained that the point is not only to interpret the world, to understand the world, but to change it. So I invite you to find out more about the Workers' International League and Socialist Appeal. It's the magazine that I'm the editor of. Locally, we're active. We have regular meetings. We have discussion group meetings and so on. We're also active in the anti-war, the labor movement, immigrant rights, Latin American solidarity. We're also supporting Cynthia McKinney and Rosa Clemente's Power to the People campaign for the presidency. And we're always explaining the need for the trade unions to break from the Democrats and for the working class to form their own political party, a mass party of labor. So check out a copy of Socialist Appeal. Sign the sign-up sheet at the beginning there. There's one up here as well. If you'd like more information on upcoming activities or on our discussion groups. And of course, if anybody would like to make a donation, or even better yet, pick up a book or buy the paper, pick up some stickers or whatever, we would very much appreciate it, because we don't have any rich backers, only working people and young people such as yourselves. So thanks very much, and thanks for coming out.